Thank you for downloading from the BBC. For details of our complete range of podcasts and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
BBC World Service. I'm Mike Williams with the Y Factor. Today, something that sets us apart from the other mammals that live on the surface of the Earth.
Not only are we good runners, we're the greatest. We are the best long-distance runners of any species on the planet.
In the last 5 years, Chris McDougall has inspired thousands of people to run with his book, Born to Run.
While other species have other natural advantages in the wild, they can swim, they can fly, they have claws, they have strength. All other land-based mammals vent heat primarily by respiration. They pant, they breathe in and out, and that's their cooling system. Humans are unique in the fact that we vent heat primarily by perspiration. So that's the reason why we can run races across the Sahara. We can run races every year across Death Valley where temperatures reach 130 degrees Fahrenheit. And we can outrun any other land-based mammal on the planet on a hot day.
Over distance.
Exactly, over distance. We're not fast. I mean, Usain Bolt is the fastest human on the planet, and Usain Bolt couldn't catch a squirrel if his life depended on it. But you put Usain Bolt up against an antelope on a hot day over about an hour, 2 hours, and that antelope will die of heat exhaustion while Usain Bolt will be smiling on his feet.
They hunt in silence. The hand sign indicates that one of them has found the track of a group of kudu.
The naturalist David Attenborough.
These are the San people of the Kalahari Desert, the last tribe on Earth to use what some believe is the most ancient hunting technique of all, the persistence hunt. They run down their prey.
And half a world away in Mexico, Chris McDougall saw what he believes is the remnant of this tradition among a tribe called the Tarahumara.
It's a tribe that is known as the running people. And the reason why is because they routinely will run races of, we consider a marathon the ultimate challenge. Well, they'll run 5 marathons in a day.
Why do we run?
I think instinctively we recognize running as the number one natural weapon we've had for most of our existence. Running is what we do when we're scared. It's what we do when we're happy. It's what we do to survive. And I think that is still deeply woven into our DNA. Genetics doesn't happen by accident. I mean, there's a reason why fish have scales and fins and gills, because they are adapted to water. And when you look at a human body, it is a machine designed for long-distance running. We have several attributes which only exist in animals which run. For instance, there is a ligament in the back of your neck called the nuchal ligament. The nuchal ligament is only present in animals that run. It's not present, for instance, in pigs. It's not present, for instance, in chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are our closest genetic cousins, yet they don't have a nuchal ligament, and we do. What the nuchal ligament does, its only purpose, is to stabilize the head during long-distance runs. Secondly, we have Achilles tendons in the back of our legs. Chimpanzees don't. The Achilles tendon only serves one purpose. It is fantastic for elastic recoil if you're running efficiently across a hard surface. So basically right there you have a machine designed for long-distance running.
When I started running in the 70s as a teenager, you'd get heckled on the streets. It was a very club-based activity, and it was a very unusual thing to see people doing, and it was derided.
Jeff Whiteman is a former international marathon runner and now leads the biggest running organisation in the UK, Run Britain. Here and around the world, the last couple of decades have seen an astounding rise in the number of runners taking to the tracks and the streets and the parks. In the UK alone, the number of people running on a regular basis has risen by more than a third since 2005.
Just about everybody can run, all shapes and sizes, all age profiles, all times of the day and night out on the streets. So there's no longer any kind of stigma or heckling or embarrassment factor associated with being seen out running, and nothing attracts people like people. And the more people that have been seen out running, the more newcomers are prepared to give it a try themselves without feeling embarrassed.
Why running?
It's simple, it's cheap, it's accessible, you can do it anywhere, you don't need a pitch, you don't need a team, you don't need equipment. It's counter-recessionary, you can do it in company, you can do it on your own, you can do it off-road, on-road, you can do it on a treadmill. It's just about the best exercise activity you could possibly think of. During the recent recession, running numbers have continued to rise from people that would otherwise have perhaps chosen more expensive activities.
And when you run, are you thinking, or is your mind clear?
Well, everybody's different on these things. For me, some of my best ideas come on the run. You know, when you're just sort of taking in a lot of oxygen, just open to your surroundings and letting your mind drift. All sorts of work-related, creative ideas can pop into your head.
I know you're in charge of running in the UK, but what's the global picture?
There's a massive racing scene in Germany. South Africa has the mega races like the Comrades Marathon, Two Oceans Marathon. But in East Africa, which provides some of the world's best distance races, they're only just starting to get their head around running for fitness and fun with a Great Ethiopian Run that's been going about 6 or 8 years. If you look at Park Run, which is the free Saturday morning 5K format in parks all over the country, there's 200 in Britain, but they're already starting to pop up in places like the USA, Australia, South Africa, Holland, and there's even one in Camp Bastion, the military headquarters in Afghanistan. So it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Many of the greatest long-distance runners today come from a part of the world that was home to some of our earliest hominid ancestors, the East African Rift Valley. It runs from the Gulf of Aden down through Kenya and beyond. Look at the medal tables from, say, the last 5 Olympics, and in the men's 10,000 metres, 13 of the 15 medalists can trace their origins to the region, to Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea or Kenya. And it's at one of the many athletics tracks in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, that the next generation of runners are in training. Daniel Wahome of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation went down to talk to the athletes and their coach.
My name's Peter Gatana. I'm the coach of Maximum Speed Development, Nairobi, Kenya. Most of the top runners in Kenya come from Kalenjin tribe and people around Rift Valley, which is quite hilly. So what happens is when they're growing up, they are very active. They have to run to school or walk up hills.
Because we find that when they're young, they take care of the animals, chasing cows, goats. So they normally move from one area to another. And this area is a very long distance. It's like hundreds of kilometers.
That creates like a base for future training to world-class level.
And because of hardship, most of us do walk for a long distance. Unlike developed countries where they use some of locomotive systems like vehicles, bicycles and motorbikes, with us we run to school. That's in the morning, lunchtime, noon and evening.
I think also their body structure also contribute. They are thin. You can say their knees are smaller than the others. I think that's the key thing.
The knees?
If your knees bigger, you can run a long distance.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
That thing is genetic, an inborn talent actually. Yeah. That's why it's specifically from the Kalenjin community.
He said it's genetic. I don't think it's genetic to some extent. It's all about the talent and the coaching. It's coaching plus hard work.
The issue of genetics and which tribe can produce the greatest runners is politically charged in Kenya. There's a recent history of violence between tribes there, so for anyone to say that Kalenjin runners are the best is controversial and insensitive in the present political climate. One member of the team, not a Kalenjin, responds with the example of the British Olympic champion Mohamed Farah, a man born in Somalia.
Currently we have a champion who is not even a Kalenjin but is a world champion. That's Mohamed Farah. He's not a Kalenjin but he's dominating that 10,000 race because it might be the region and the environment that he found himself when he was born has shaped him to be that. So without any genetics or what, then the environment shapes him to be whom he is.
There's one thing that we forgot, the commercial incentive.
Yes, there was a huge commercial incentive. Just about 25 years ago, the International Amateur Athletics Federation changed its name and the name amateur was dropped. It became the Association of Athletics Federations. And so athletes could then earn money from running. And athletes went to the World Championships, they would come back home in a Mercedes, and a Mercedes is a status symbol in Kenya. And suddenly people decided, listen, this is my neighbor. I used to beat her in primary school when running. And look, she's decided to run and this is where she is. And over the years, when people began to understand the money around it, and that changed everything. So there's the incentive of employment, and that helped those people get into athletics.
The sport has become big business, selling runners shoes and clothes, watches, water bottles, magazines and more. But the latest trend harks back to our origins, to those persistence hunters, to the earliest days of the long-distance run. I've come to a park in central London, a kind of place I quite like a gentle walk around, but my producer has told me that I have to turn up here and meet some runners, but some runners with a difference. And I can see them here now, 3 of them. Hi, Mike.
Hi.
You've got no shoes on.
Yes.
It's England. It's the middle of winter. When I woke up this morning, there was ice on the car. The trains were running late because the points were frozen. And here you are in the park with no shoes on.
We're barefoot runners.
I'm Anna Toombs, barefoot runner, movement therapist.
I'm David Robinson, barefoot runner and teacher of it, I suppose.
I'm Tracy Davenport. I'm also a barefoot runner and I sell minimal footwear.
Why would you run barefoot? Aren't you just negating centuries of scientific advance?
Well, a lot of runners come to barefoot running because they are injured and they've tried different types of shoes, they've strapped their knees up, they've strapped their feet up. Shoes can change the way that your whole body moves. By taking the shoes off, it allows your feet to connect with the ground, use the force that comes up from the ground, and allows your body to move as it's designed to move.
So I suggest, Mike, for the sake of this programme, that you take your shoes and socks off and try it with us.
It's cold. It's cold.
It's not that cold.
Okay. Bizarrely, I feel like I want to actually run because my feet are so cold.
There you go. Roll through the foot first, just to feel the ground. Mm-hmm. It feels nice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, most people do believe that we were born to run. It's in us, it's in our souls. It's part of what makes human beings what we are today. And when I run barefoot, it really connects me to my ancestors, to my soul.
They are almost evangelical in their desire to see people running barefoot. And running does seem to be an activity that generates almost a religious fervour. And like many religions, it has many different sects. Here's Shankara Smith. She runs a business in the UK selling running shoes. It's called Run and Become. What a strange name.
A wonderful name. Run and become anything you want to. It comes from the inspiration behind the shop was a man called Sri Chinmoy, who was a meditation teacher and also a running advocate. And he wrote a poem, Run and Become, Become and Run. Run to succeed in the outer world, become to proceed in the inner world. And that's where our name comes from.
The reason for your running and for this business, in fact, is, at least in part, spiritual, isn't it?
Spirituality is a key part of running for me and for us here at Run and Become. It might seem a little unusual, but when you're running, you are challenging yourself more than anything else. You're going beyond what your mind's telling you you're capable of doing. But as I'm doing that, sort of my purer self is coming forward, and that leads to self-discovery. Wonderful. I think running is just the best sport because it clears your head like nothing else. There's so many added benefits that aren't to do with your fitness level if you run.
Many runners talk of the great joy, even ecstasy, that it brings them, the so-called runner's high. After long exertion, the body produces endorphins, chemicals related to opiates. They dull the pain and generate a feeling of well-being. They helped our ancestors endure the persistence hunt. These days, of course, they are a pleasant side effect of evolution and exercise. Back in the park in London with the barefoot runners, I've been joined by a colleague, Hugh Levinson. Hugh says he's addicted to running, but hasn't been able to for months because of injury. There's no scientific consensus that running barefoot will help him or others, but he says he's willing to try anything to feel that high again.
So I've been running fairly seriously for about, 15 years, something like that, doing all kinds of distances up to marathons. And about 4 months ago, maybe, I started to have this pain on the inside. of my right knee, and it got worse and worse, and I found I could still run through it. So after running, say, for 5 or 10 minutes, the pain would go, but then it would come back, and I mean really badly, so that eventually I could hardly walk.
Could be a problem with the quad or the ligaments around here, so your knee's not stabilising properly when you land. So when you step onto a step and you're pushing up, you need to stabilise the knee. So what we need to do is make the legs muscle stronger. So can you try running with trainers first? Only a few hundred yards up and down, and we'll go from different points and have a look and see how you're getting on. Trainers, we believe, as barefoot runners, actually, they're like a scaffolding. They support the arch to stop that overpronation from happening, but the muscles then get weaker. So making the feet work better, bring the arch back in, stabilise all through the knees and the hips, and have a better running style. Hopefully that will alleviate the pain. Hey, all right, let's get those shoes and socks off and give it a go. So what we're going to do is, I'll run next to you.
Okay.
And we'll...
Right shoe off. Okay.
There you go.
Right, left shoe, left sock off.
I want you to imagine you're cycling a push bike.
Okay.
It's going ankle over ankle. That's it. And there you go. The timing of a Viennese waltz.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Bit of Chopin.
Feels quite odd. So for me, with my knee injury, you tell me how you think this could help me, because that's what I really need to know.
What you need to do is get more flexibility in the ankles and in the hips. That will then take some of the strain off of the knee.
So you're saying the shoe is just making things worse?
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're hiding. You're hiding away from the actual problem.
Have you caught any game?
Not yet. We've chased squirrels.
There's not much game to be found in our towns and cities, not much need to hunt it either. These barefoot runners look back to a very different time that no longer exists. But why not? There's room enough for everyone to run. People do it for so many different reasons, on roads and tracks, across fields and hills. Some race the clock or other people. Some run to stay fit or lose weight, or often to spend time alone with their own thoughts. Running seems to move their minds as much as it does their bodies.
I run because it makes me feel like I'm a fully paid up human, a complete Homo sapiens. And when I'm not running, I don't feel fully human. I feel like there's something missing. And it's like a kind of essential part of being a member of this species is running. And you just feel yourself and fully human.
Back to the office.